Hi. So this is basically going to be a walkthrough for you to follow. So we're going to be doing basically the things that we did on the lecture, but this video will guide you through all of them in a one piece. So the first thing that you want to do is create an Android Studio project. So go to Start, and you have all of these options. Um, some of these options are helpful when you're starting a new project and you already know what you're going to be doing and you're like experienced enough to know what the code is doing. So for us, we're just going to start with an empty project that has nothing, so we can start from the ground up and do everything manually, which if you don't, then you will just not know some things. So for instance, if we went all the way with a navigation drawer activity, you will have a lot of things in there already that you don't know what they are. So we're going to start with an empty one, go to next, give it a name. This is going to be um, puppy one. Okay, language is going to be Java. This is the location where we want to save it. Package name. If you've never used an IDE, packages are how you structure your code. I'll just leave them as they are. You could change them if you want. Now remember that we're doing minimum API level 26, which is Android 8.0. The reason we're doing that one is because that's one of the most um, broadly available versions, so it will work in about 60% of the devices. You could change it to an older one, let's say Lollipop, then it will work in 94.1, and if we go to the newest one, which is API 30, then not many devices have it. And Android 10, only 8.2. So that's why we're using 8.0. You could go with 8.1 if you wanted to. For the most part, there's not going to be that much difference between 8.0, 8.1, and 9.0 with the things that we're using. But if you go back to, for instance, 4.2, a lot of things that we're using in the class will not work. They just didn't exist back then. And by back then, I mean like 2 years ago. Android evolves really fast. Okay, use legacy Android separate libraries. We will not be using them. So finish, we'll create the project. This can take a little bit of time because even though you're creating an empty activity, there's still going to be sort of boilerplate content in there. So we have our very dull scripts. Here's our code. We have nothing. We have the app. Source code is empty. So we have here an example of a test, the manifest, and then empty here, and empty here. So this is going to be where all of the things are going to be. See that we still have some things here. These are just the minimum things that the app will require in order to compile. So now we go out here. No, that was not the thing I wanted to click. I don't even know what that did. So go to new, app, new. You have to wait until it's done indexing, and great. Also, it will allow us to create Android specific things. Okay, there it is. So if you notice before, it was like the code structure as it is on the Finder, for instance. Here, this is the structure that aligns with what Android is gonna be looking at. So here's the package for the source code. Here's the values. I'm pretty sure you didn't know this before class, but now you should. So drawable is where some things are gonna be saved. And for now, we're just going to go here into the app and we're going to create a new activity. Now, what kind of activity do we want to create? Again, you could go with one of the basic ones or full screen or fragment pulse view model. Those are things that we're going to cover eventually, but for now, just an empty one. We're going to do everything from the ground up. Now here, you can call it the main activity. I'm just going to call it, what should I call it? It's my friend. So let's call it intro activity. see how the layout name changes. You could change this independently as well. It's just usually better if they're named similarly. That's why Android does it automatically, because they are going to be linked. Now see this little button here, launcher activity, means that this is the activity that will start when your activity starts. Uh, Android has many views, so for instance, if I go to my phone and I click this one, this is the default activity that we have there. So that's what we're saying. Java is going to be the language, target source set is going to be on the main, and then this screen is finished. Okay, so we have our Java code. We're not going to be doing anything here for this class, but next week we're going to be seeing just a little bit of things that we can do here to actually make our work app do something, not just look pretty. And our apps right now don't really look pretty, they just look. So the thing that I want you to notice here is that we're basically saying that when you enter this activity, the first thing that you want to create is the screen that looks like the one defined in this file. See? Activity intro, activity intro. This is just the way that you reference it from the source code. Now, here, by default, we have a constraint layout. We're going to be using constraint layout first, and then we're going to transition it to a different thing. Now, let's use the drag and drop. So, let's see, what do we want to have? I'm going to minimize this a little bit because I don't really care about those. So, we want to add, a text view. So you just drag and drop. You can change the text, what is actually being shown there. Let me go a little bit higher so you can see. And let's just put this here. Let's see. I'm going to create something similar to this over here. Okay, so first we're just gonna create. Let me see if it looks better now. It doesn't work. So basically, we want to create like a profile kind of a screen where you show the name of the app and then two places where you can change your name and last name in the application. So here, let's just use the name of the app, which is going to be called copy1. Sometimes it may take a little bit longer when you have a lot of things already on the screen for this to be reflected here, but it should be reflected almost instantly. Now we have that one. That one, remember, is just text that is being shown on the screen. When you open your app, it's not going to be editable, at least not with your keyboard. Whereas this one, plain text, is going to be editable. So this is going to be just the default value that you put there. So this is going to be literally a name. And then we enter another one where the person can edit their last name. We're going to make name and last name just because I want to have two things and I don't want to make it too complicated. Now, here you have other type of input uh, texts. So, for instance, if you want to have an email, you can just create an email box here. It's literally the same thing, just a plain text, but on the background, it will do validation of the email address, okay? So input type, text email address. You could change this one to be something else if you wanted to. When you use the password, it's going to be similar. So if you want to have the password here, then it's going to be a text password. Now we're gonna see what these mean actually, but for now, Um, these are just things there. How do we know that this is the email and this is going to be the password? Well, we don't. So we're just gonna put a little text here and another one here to tell us that this is going to be the email and this is going to be the password. Okay, looks nice, right? So let's just run it on the emulator. You can just do it with running app right off, so it's turning on. So we have to wait until Android starts. That was a sample thing that I was working on. Look at the puppy. Look. We're just waiting for the app to compile. If you can see here, Redel is running, so it's compiling our app. This is just something that I already had on the phone. So the Android emulator is going to save the state that you had it on the last time you closed it. So last time I closed it, I had that app open, so it was open already. Still running. That's the thing that takes the most, is for the app to compile. We're gonna see that later on, the second time you compile it is going to be faster. Why is it gonna be faster? Because a lot of the boilerplate code and information from the app is going to be already installed, so it's going to be more like an updating of the app on the phone when you recompile it. Okay, now the app is there. Now you notice this little thing here doesn't look at all like this one. Like I remember when we were using constraint layout, we actually have to tell the things where they are in respect to the origin of the screen or in respect to another widget within or view within the UI. Right now we haven't. That's why there's all of these red things here. I just ignore them. Here, what we're gonna do now is just give it layouts. So we can just automatically do it by pressing these little things here. So this will automatically give some constraints based on where it is on the previous screen. Now you only need two minimum, what is the name? Constraints for it to work. You don't necessarily have to have the top and the left, it's just the ones that are easier. You could fairly easily just do right and bottom. So we're gonna see how that one works. So for this one, instead of having the constraint based on the top, we want it to be always aligned with this one, right? So we can just simply do this to have a constraint like that. Now see how this one is already constrained to being on this one? So we don't want that, so we just select it and delete. Now we can choose this one, it's going to be constrained to this one, and then it's going to be always about uh, 20, no, let's move it to here, about 40. What is this 40? Generally that refers to density pixels. You could also make it uh, different values that are predetermined. Here 40 just looks nice. Now this one, I'm going to make it so it's always aligned on the left to the one on the top. and it's always going to be aligned with this one. No, that's not gonna work. It's not fine. I'm gonna delete that one. I'm gonna move it now. I want to delete this one because they're just going to conflict. So I want to be there, and then I want to align the bottom. That should work. And then the bottom is going to be about 10. From the bottom, that should look good. Now let's add a constraint from this one, from the top one. And then horizontal constraint, let's just make it aligned to this one. And let's do that with the other ones as well. So this one is going to be constrained to be at this one, and this one with this one as well. Okay, so let's see, what do we have left? Email is not vertically constrained. So that basically means that unless we put something here, it's going to go to the origin, which is going to be the top here. So if you know coordinates, usually when you draw them, let me get pen and paper. Like this. So the origin is on the bottom right corner, and it's that 0, 0. When you're working with a phone, the origin is actually at the very top, and we're here, top left, 0, 0. Okay, so that's why when we opened our phone here, it compiled with everything on the top. Everything didn't have constraints, so they were all placed at the origin of the coordinate of your UI. Okay, now we could go with this one or this one. Sometimes when you have very small changes, you can just apply the changes and restart the activity, which is going to be slightly faster. Sometimes when you added new widgets or you made significant changes to the UI, or if you make changes to the code itself, then the changes are not going to be applied. And I totally forgot to put this constraint. That's fine. Let's open the emulator. It's applying the changes. So the applies the changes and it restores it. So see what I told you? The email is just put here at the very top. But the left one is not leftmost because we had a constraint on the email that it will be 40 density pixels to the left of this little name input field. So let's just add a top constraint. Um, now I want it to be aligned with this one, more or less, and then just put another 15 here. Why 15? I think that will look nice and centered. You can make it more, you can make it less. You only need two constraints, one vertical, one horizontal. Now we still have some yellow warnings here. That's about the resources. So we're gonna go up and fix those as well. So this text is hard-coded, which is not great. So if you wanted to change this from Poppy1 to uppercase Poppy, you have to change the source code here and recompile the app for those changes to be reflected. So that's not very efficient. So Android gives us something that we can use to not have that. Oh, I cannot spell Poppy. He said I cannot spell Poppy. Okay. So here we have Poppy. Now remember we have the strings resources, which is this one. Right now we only have the app name that's created automatically by Android when we create the app. So we're going to use that one. Where are we going to use it? Here. So all that we have to say is that we're going to be using the string called app name. So if you're familiar with hash values and dictionaries, this is the key and this is the value. This is just stored in a XML format. Key value pair. So whenever we reference this key, we're going to get this value on the screen. So if we want to change this to uppercase Poppy now, all we need to go is go to this file, change it, and that's going to be reflected in the app without having to recompile the app. So that's just going to be better for localization, for changes, for maintenance of your code. So we are going to be doing the same thing here. Now we could go and manually create the strings. So you could type the whole thing. I'm just going to copy paste it. Copy, name, label, and you say here name. And then here, instead of having the string name, we say that we want to have the string resource name label. So that's the label for the name field itself. You could also go the easy way and have Android help you. So you have all of these hints here. So you can just fix the things. It doesn't give me the fix for that one. Hard-coded text. Here it is. So it tells you what the problem is. You click on fix. Tells you, okay, what do you want to call? What do you want the key of this 1B? I'm going to call it label. I just generally prefer to call labels whatever we put on text fields like that, rather than just call it password, because the password is going to be the value itself that we put in there. And this is going to be the string that we want to put. So it's going to be password. Where do we want to have it? In the main strings file. You could put it somewhere else, create a whole new one, and that's fine. Let's do OK. We can close the warnings. See how this one was replaced automatically and it was created here. So it's just going to be slightly faster. Now let's see, what else do we have here? We have an autofill value. So it's generally speaking recommended to have autofill. There can be service to classify data correctly, but running minimum search views that could be autofillable. So when you have your apps and you log in and enter passwords and whatnot, you have the option to use autofill from the Android device. So you can enable that here. Now, we're not going to be doing that for now. We just want to look at this. Now, if you look at the app, right now it doesn't change much. Here, we can just edit it. I'm using the keyboard, where you could also use the keyboard here, but you can just type. Shortcuts, I cannot do shift back. Okay, so that's my last name. You get 10 brownie points if you can spell that correctly. Here, the email hasn't changed. Why hasn't it changed? We haven't recompiled or applied the changes. So this is going to be something like this. And then here the password. See how it automatically gets screened? Like every word, the letter is replaced by a little asterisk. If you didn't use the password field, you could do it with these ones, but you will have to write your own code to do that. So right now it's just more streamlined and easier to use it. But I will say 2 years ago, we didn't have this. So you had to use one of these, but when you type your password, it will be there. Like my password will be like Poppy screen. No, Poppy Poppuccino? Is it what's called? Poppuccino. So anyone who's looking at my phone will be able to see the password. So that's not very safe. So you will have to write your own code to every time you type a new key, it will be replaced here by an asterisk, but on the background you still had the real letters. So you had to do that manually. But then if you already wrote it once, you can just reuse it on other apps. But now Android is just like, well, we'll just wrote it for you, so just use this one here. Now let's recompile the app. I enter the settings. Okay, how long has this been going? About 20 minutes. Okay, so that's a constraint layout. You create the things, you put the constraints, and then you just run it on the app to make sure it looks like you want it to look. Changes were not applied. Adding or renaming a resource requires an application restart. So whenever you add a resource, basically you cannot just tell it to just apply the changes. You have to reinstall the app, so like update it. So we're gonna be doing that. The compilation part is going to be slightly faster now because you already have the app installed, even though you're recompiling a new APK. So here, email, password, they are where we want it. Okay, so that's all about the constraint layout. It isn't the easiest one to use just because you can literally just tinker with the conditions here, say, okay, this is way too high, this is way too low, and just have more flexibility on where to put things. You can literally put something here on the very bottom if you wanted to. Now, right now I cannot because I have these constraints here, and they're going to literally say where things will go. Okay, now let's look at the code for this one. So, what we're gonna be doing next is transitioning this constraint layout to a linear layout. So how do you do that? Well, for the most part, you're just gonna change here to have it as a linear layout. And if I'm not wrong, that's the right one. Let's see what we get. Oh, cool. So see how everything is just gone now? Like, it looks like this. If you can tell, you have the puppy, you have the name, then you have the other things over here at the very top. Then if we were able to scroll to the right, we will see the rest there. And that's because the linear layout actually spaces everything right to each other. So we're gonna change it a little bit. Layout direction, we're gonna make it top center. Parent, yes. Padding horizontal, spacing, no. Right. Let's do it on the code there. So see, these ones, we no longer need them because now we're on a linear layout. Okay. So I already have code for it. So let me go back and find that one. So this is not linear layout. We're just gonna use linear layout then. Things look the same, it's just that the other one is a deprecated version. And then here, this is what I wanted to use. So the other version of linear layout is an older one, so it doesn't have this, but we're gonna change the orientation. So instead of horizontal, we're gonna make it vertical. So horizontal aligns every single thing to the right of the previous thing. So it's going to put this one, then to the right of this one, then to the right of that one, this one, and that's why it looks like this. Now vertical means that it's going to be stacked on below. So first is going to be this one, then below that one, this one, then below that one, this one, below, 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 below. So if you're familiar with a stack, that's pretty much it. Just being used here rather than you writing your own data structure. So what we're gonna see now is that it looks like this. So it doesn't really look that great. The most thing about this is that you have the wrap content and match parent. So it's going to be just one underneath the other. So if you want something to be slightly to the right, you cannot just drag it to the right because it will just not work. It will just reset it to the foremost left. So you want to add something called padding. So if you go to all of the options, there's so many options that you can play with, but here what I want to do is add some horizontal padding. Let's do 50 dp. No, let's do it here. Padding at the left. Yeah, because we're doing better. 50 dp, density pixels, and start, 50 density pixels. It's not gonna let me. So the main problem right now is that all of the things we did for the constraint layout are now conflicting with the things that we have here. So what do I mean by that? You have all of these layout constraint end of and start of. They don't really work in a linear layout. So we're just gonna remove all of them. Like margin top, margin left, layout height. Now, ideally, you will not be doing this very often. If you want to have a different layout, it is, generally speaking, easier to just start from scratch. So instead of having these ones, you're gonna be just starting with an empty one and then just add your content inside of it. Now, let's look at this. So we want Puppy to be the first one, so we're just gonna put it at the very top. Okay, that's it. I like where Puppy is. Now let's see. Now this is centered. So why is this centered and these are not centered? Any ideas? Content, let's find converterization to a horizontal if you wanted to change it back. Options. Show tooltips. Oh, I already have them. Okay, then there's this one, and there's this one. Okay. So let's go and look at both of them and see why they are different. So we have EMS 10 on this one. Edit text too. So that's why having the automatic IDs is not that helpful. So I'm just gonna change this to last name input. And then this is going to be, instead of just edit text, it's going to be name input. Okay, now we can go here and just look at them and compare them. So margin at top, margin start. So see this margin start is the difference between the two. So what does that mean? It means that we have 96 pixels to the left of this one, but not to the left of this one. So if we were to go and just copy paste it here, that will move it exactly the same amount. So This is more cumbersome than with the constraint layout because you cannot manually do it. You have to go to the properties here and change that here. Layout margin start. And we're gonna be doing the same thing with this one. This one has 27 at the top. Let's see. Let's add 50 dp padding, and then we have to add the margin. Margin, layout margin. Yeah, margin start. It is what 24. Density pixels. So if you notice here, the padding is not really working. It's looking just at the layout margin. So in this case, it's only looking at how far to the left, how far from the top is going to be from the start of the layout, which is going to be this thing here. Okay. Now, if you added more here, or if you remove it altogether, it's going to be just literally below, the closest it can possibly be. Adding more there, which means that you move it from being stuck on top to be just a little bit lower. Okay. Now, what do we do if we want to have uh, two things next to each other? Well, you cannot. Like literally, it's going to be one on top of the other. But there is one way to go about it. So we can come here and we can add another linear layout. Now I'm just going to copy paste this, and then I'm gonna put it somewhere around here. Yes, you can have a linear layout instead of another linear layout. It's just a container for views, and a linear layout is a view as much as any text view or edit text. So they are inherit from the same class. So you can just use them interchangeably. This is going to be closing the linear layout. Layout width, layout height. This is the wrap content. Can you stop? It's not letting me select with my mouse. Okay, you're happy now? Now let's close this one. And then inside of here, we're gonna have the text email. And this is going to be horizontal, because what we want to have is just a thing that goes right to left. That's horizontal, right? So if you put vertical, then we defeat the purpose of what we're doing, right? And then which is the one that has the email? Again, we don't have a meaningful ID, so let's do this one. Let's call it email field. No, the email field. Now we can go to the code, look for that one. Email field. This is the one we want. Just take it out of there. And let's put it here. Let's see if this works. Yeah, literally one next to each other. Now this is a little bit not the greatest. So what we're gonna do is go to the email, margin, and we don't want that one. Actually, we want is a layout margin left. And come here, just find the start, and let's just give it 20 density pixels. Okay, so this is going to be in respect to the linear layout is inside of, so this one, not in respect to this one. But we could also have this one to be moved slightly to the left in its entirety by doing the same thing. So layout margin here. I think this is a start. No, this is a start. We could move it another 20, not PD, DD. Okay. See, now it's moved a little bit to the left. So this one got messed up. Oh no, we just have it the wrong way around. Okay, there. Email, and then the other thing. Now we could also make the container for this one just a little bit smaller if we wanted to. Instead of wrap content, we can say merge parent on the width. And this one has layer margin start of 94. Remember we had it this much amount moved to the left. Now we want it to be just slightly closer to this one. What did we have it before? I think it was 40. So that looks better. So you will have to tinker with those to make sure that they move to the right position. Okay. Now, that's how you will achieve the same kind of visual feeling that you had with the constraint layout. It just takes a little bit more effort. You have to work with multiple layouts, one inside of each other. Now, we could go and edit the content over there once again, or we could just use the UI here and add the layouts that we want. So we want another horizontal one. We're just going to add it here. And inside of this one, we want to have the password and the edit text for the password. Okay, just move below. Okay, now you go up. Okay, now you will have to now tinker with these things again to make sure that this one has a margin from the top and a margin from the left so that it aligns with this one better on the center. Or if you wanted to have it entirely aligned as we had it before, then you just have to change the margins from the left on this one and remove the one from this one, for instance, to make it all aligned. So it's just very manual tinkering with these margins to make sure that everything looks the same, but it is doable. Okay, so that's the linear layout. Generally speaking, it's easier if you just start from scratch and just drag and drop the things. If it's a very complicated UI and you're just creating different versions of it, then I would say um, converting the layout like we did here is not wrong. It's just make sure that you are aware that if we go from a constraint layout to a linear layout, there is some properties that don't really apply and they might even conflict with things that you are trying to do. So most of the rest is going to be fairly straightforward. Now let's go into making this app look a little bit prettier. So let's go to the linear layout. And this is something that we're going to do if I find it. Look at the puppy while I look for this. Okay, found it. Background. Okay, so right now our app, let's recompile it. Now this is what it looked with the constrained layout. Now let's see what it looks with the linear layout. It should look exactly like this. Now it doesn't look exactly the same just because I am I have not done the whole tinkering with these margins, but it looks very similar to the other one. Okay, there it is. Literally the same. Right now it doesn't mind that we don't have any constraints because it automatically will align horizontally, and then the vertical is based on the margin that you add. Okay, the functionality itself hasn't changed. These are still the same things, but it looks very white. I don't have anything against white, it's just, let's see if we can add a little bit of color. So the easiest way to add color is to come here, background, and choose a color. Now, you could have resources to have the colors that are predefined in Android, or you could go to custom. I really need to move this and use something from the material UI colors. So let's say purple. No, this red doesn't look that great. Hmm, let's see. 0000. That's black. F. Okay, that's cyan. If you don't know what this is just the way the colors are represented by a computer. It's a hexadecimal code, which is a representation of an RGB code. Now, let's go with green, a really dark green. Clearer green. Okay. Okay, let's go with grass green. But now we cannot see the color of the, like what is being written on here, right? And I also messed up the email and the other thing order. Yeah. This one. And in the app name at the very top. Okay, my battery is gonna die, so we're gonna have to change the scenery. But first, let's change this. So, you can change the background color, foreground color, or the text color, I think it's what it's called. Text color, okay, here it is. So you can do the same thing. Right now, we're just gonna go with white. It should have contrast against this, so let's just go with white. Go with white. And let's just make this one uh, yellow tint. Okay, and that's how we change the color. If I had clicked it here, but I don't want to record the screen. Okay, that one is later. Just this one. It's a little bit darker than the other one, that's fine. Be right back in a second. Look at the puppy. Hi. Okay, so let's look at the last thing that we're gonna do for this one before we move to another one. Okay. Hmm. Well, let's add a button. What button do I want to add? Well, let's add a toggle button or switch. Let's add a switch. So we can move it here. We'll just put it at the very bottom. Here's the switch. It's here. Now, see how I put it on the right? It's because it went inside this linear layout, and we don't want it there. We want it on the bottom, so underneath the other thing. So there it is. It's a little bit too low. Let's see why. Switch wrap content. This one is the reason why. So see all of this is covering all of that. So it was covering everything underneath. Now the switch is doing something similar. It's wrapping the content. So it's gonna be just everything here. Layout height, wrap content. So it's just being centered here. Now what happens if we move it to the very top or in the middle or something else? It's gonna be that big again. So let's go to the source code of that one and see what's happening. Wait one, text view. It is still inside this linear layout in the code, even though we moved it. So let's just take it out. Now it should be out, which is fine. Text on. I'm just changing the text here, but you can just move it to a text resource. Layout weight, yield layout height of 0 dp. Okay, let's use that. Match parent, it means it's gonna have the width of the entire screen. Wrap content is gonna have the width of the just the necessary width to match what the content is. So just the text and the little button. Now, layout weight is 1, layout height is 5. And what happens if we add a button underneath that? Okay, so right now just distributing the space between these, underneath these two layouts. If we put it somewhere around here, that's just how much space it's gonna take up. So let's put it just above the button. And let's put it beneath the button. You're not helping. Okay, now let's switch this. Now the button has wrap content, match parent. We just wanted to match the content. Now this basically is an easy way to make a button just full screen. I don't know if you want it, but that was very popular. Now let's compile the app. Now we have more stuff. Now we have a switch and a button. If I look at this one, it says the changes were not applied, you're required to restart, so basically use this one. Oh, because we added a resource. Or changed that ID. Yeah, we changed an ID. Okay. Let's go to the emulator. Starting. Okay. Now here, this is the switch. It's on or off. And there's a button. We can click it. It doesn't do anything because we haven't learned how to actually do anything with this. Right now we just make it look. Okay. The next thing that we're gonna do is do the same thing we did 20 minutes ago, and it's change this. Instead of having a linear layout, we're gonna use a table layout. Now the thing with table layout is that it's gonna be messed up already just by doing that. Because in table layout you require table rows to be able to do things. So that's why this all looks so weird right now. So here we have the linear layout. Now in table layout you don't need to do this anymore. Right now they are just being moved by this layout margin. But if we remove them, they are all going to be basically in the same boat. And by that I mean here, and here, they're gone. Here, and here, they're gone. Now, table layout works a little bit similar to linear layout, but it's just a vertical linear layout. So everything is going to be stacked on top or below each other. But instead of having this linear layout here, you can use something called a table row to make sure that the things are within that row. So we're gonna be doing that here. Table row. And it's going to be achieving the same purpose that we achieved before with the whole. Why I always do this? It always sorts them by alphabetically when you do those changes. So right now we have a row that contains these two things. So we're gonna have them horizontal within a vertical thing. So all that table layout is an extension of linear layout with that added table row that allows us to do this more easily. Now, in the code wise, we could also achieve something else, and is that when you have a table layout, you have, if you've ever used Excel, I hope you've used Excel, you have columns and then you have rows. So columns are these ones, rows are these ones. So other than having rows, you can also align things on different columns. So let's do that with these ones. So let's add a table row here. And then another one here. Ooh. Okay. And honestly, this is one of the properties that I never remember for the sake of me. So stretch columns, 21. So let's see, let's do the layout. Let's look for stretch columns. Right now it's stretching all of the columns. We just want to stretch column number 1. What does that mean? That means that the columns are going to be stretched to match the everything. So as we did before here, There, now it's updated. And this one moved. Okay. So let's do this one. Bottom at the top, then these two rows. Okay, this has a name. This has the app name. So let's put this one at the very top. Let's move the button to the very bottom. Now I just put it inside that. If I don't want it inside that, I want it outside. And this is where the UI doesn't really help as much. And I'm gonna just do it in the code itself. Where is the button? The button is here. So even though it will allow you to have things outside table rows, it's recommended that you have everything inside table rows. So it's easier to move things around here. Okay, so let's see, we have the last name, and then we have something else here, right? So this basically is saying this table has two columns, and right now name and puppy are on column 0. So it's column 0, 1, 2. Why do we have just two columns? Well, because this table row has two elements, and that basically means that you're gonna have at least two rows, otherwise you cannot show the thing. So if we do one thing here and we move last name inside this one, let's wait for that to load. Then it's going to move it here. Now, why do we have all this space? Well, remember this? That's why. So if you can tell, some of these fields are already going out of bounds. So they're going a little bit too much to the right. Now, let's see what it looks like. Obviously, it doesn't look as pretty as the other ones. So table layout is a little bit trickier to make it look great, but you can achieve the same look. Now we're just not gonna do that here. I'm gonna show you other things instead that are going to address these little issues with not being able to see things on the screen because they are just too big. Ooh, almost lunchtime. Yay. Yes, I was recording this before lunch. Okay. Where was I? Emulator. Okay, looks like this. Now if you start typing a very long last name here, we'll just not be able to see it, and there's no way to look past the screen because right now what we have is just what you see is what you get. Now we don't see this one, we don't get it. Now, how do we fix that? Well, let's make a bigger problem here with this button. Let's put it inside its own table row. Now we will add it here. No. Layout table row. Okay, let's add a table row. I don't want it inside that one. So when you're dealing with table layout, it likes for table rows to be just underneath the parent layout. And now we're gonna say, and this is the thing that I never know what to put, layout column. This is it. So if we don't want it on the left one, we want it to be on the right because it's the only button. So how do we do that? Well, we just tell the button, and I'm just going to change it on the properties here that I want the layout column for this button to be column number 1. So not column 0, column